This is Meet the Movie Press. It's November 16th, 2018. Today, we pay tribute to the late, great Stanley. Rebecca gets remade and Lethal Weapon 5, Ghostbusters 3. Plus Blumhouse Corner and the week's big releases, and a little bit more. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Meet the Movie Press.
This is Meet the Movie Press. It is November the 16th, 2018. It's a one-hour show, but a double show this week because we're not going to be here next week for Thanksgiving. My name is Simon Thompson. I am the one in the anchor chair here. You can find me on social media at ShowbizSimon on Twitter and Instagram. Well, I have a panel with me, and we're going to talk in a second. We're going to have a guest on the show. But first of all, the panel. Who are you, Demetri? If people don't know you from the show already.
Hey there, Demetri Panos, at DMovies1701, and you can find me here in Meet the Movie Press, and I also am on Anatomy of a Movie, where we review shows and take a deep dive in dissecting the movie and all of its parts, talk about its production, what brought it to the big screen, and all that fun stuff. So it's a fan's approach to talking about movies.
And we'll talk about what you're covering this week in just a little while.
No
Kit,
worries.
welcome back to the show.
Thank
For those
you.
who don't know who you are, where can we find you and what do you do?
I am Kit Bowen. I'm at The Movie Kit. I have been a movie reviewer for about 20 years now. I work for Rotten Tomatoes, Fandango, but I edit screenpics.com is my website, and I'm happy to be back, guys.
Awesome.
Well, it's good to have you back. Obviously, we usually start the show on something of an upbeat note, but this week was a very sad week here in Hollywood because, unfortunately, Stanley, as you will well know by now, passed this week at the age of 95. The guy behind, well, basically anything Marvel. The guy was an absolute hero. I had the pleasure of meeting him and interviewing him a number of times over the years, and was particularly upset by this news this week. Someone else who had the great honor of working very closely with Stan over the last couple of years, and another of Stan's friends, Kevin Smith, is Paul Scanlon, who's a co-founder and CEO of Legion M. We'll find out more about Legion M in just a second from Paul. But first of all, Paul, welcome to Meet the Movie Press. Now, you and I, obviously, we know each other. We've spoken a lot over the last couple of years with your work with Legion M. But this year, you guys held a very special ceremony for Stanley. Tell me a little bit about that and how that came about.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, we were truly blessed to know Stan the way we did, and to have worked with him. And Legion M, we're a fan-owned entertainment company, so we're owned by fans. And Stan was always really supportive of our company, being a fan-oriented icon himself. You know, and always really appreciating the fans. Stan he got our business, and he was always really supportive. And we recognized that Stan had not had his hand and foot imprint at the Chinese theater. And here is a man who is responsible for, you know, some of the biggest blockbusters of our time.
Yeah.
And so we organized together as Legion M and with Stan Lee fans from around the world to honor him and to immortalize Stan in cement at the Chinese theater last summer. And it was, I have to say, I think it was one of the most memorable days of my life.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that, because I was very lucky enough to be invited by you guys to come and sit in the front row opposite Stan, and a lot of people from the Marvel universe. I remember Kevin Feige was there, Kevin Smith, a big supporter of Marvel, was there, Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, was there, James Gunn was there. I mean, tell me about what Stan was feeling on that day. We were all very excited to be there, but tell me what Stan was feeling and what he sort of was talking about on that day and how much it meant to him.
Well, anyone that knows Stan knows just how humble and appreciative and kind he is as a person. I remember talking to him on several occasions leading up to the day, and he was making jokes about having his hands and feet manicured and massaged and getting them ready for and you know getting them ready to be put into wet cement. And you know, honestly, I think it came through that evening. I mean, we had, you know, one of the things that Legion M wanted to do when we did this for Stan is, you know, really to honor him and to give him the kind of lasting honorary endowment that, having this, his hand and foot imprint at the Chinese theater would do. And I know Stan was really heartfelt by it. And what we did is was quite unorthodox. Typically, these handprint ceremonies are put on by the major studios, and all the studio execs are there, and the fans are on the outside, on the other side of the barricade, looking in, wondering, who's getting honored today. And we flipped that around. We made it a fan event. So we invited fans from all over the world to come and to be there with Stan. And the Chinese theater told us it was not only one of the biggest handprint ceremonies they'd ever seen, as far as like people there and the amount of press and just the pure sort of publicity and attention that it got, but it was also really heartfelt because the fans were there supporting Stan. We were giving this honor to him. We had a party that night up in the Hollywood Hills.
It was an amazing party. An amazing party.
Yeah, Stan got up and spoke. He was there. It's not easy for him at that age to, have the kind of energy that he has. But, it was leading up to it. There was another sad event. His wife, Joan, had passed away just weeks before the day that we were going to be having this honor. And so we were really sensitive to that because Joni was a huge part of Stan's life, and we wanted to, give him time to grieve. And ultimately, he came back, and I think this day was really a spot of joy and happiness in an otherwise kind of mournful period for Stan. And he was exceptionally grateful and just so effusively awesome in he spoke for almost an hour, I think, in front of the whole party. And he also got up and spoke at the event. And as you mentioned, we had Chadwick Boseman there, and Kevin Feige, and Kevin Smith was the MC. It was really a day that I think many people, everyone that came, will never forget.
Now, obviously, Legion M are going to, in some form, basically carry on the work of fans, and obviously Stanley is a fan as much as a creator of what you guys represent. The next phase for Legion M, I know you guys are entering a new range of funding at the moment. If people wanted to find more about Legion M and how to get involved with that, to carry on the work and the legacy and the ideology of people like Stanley, where can they find more information on that?
Yeah, they can find us on all the social networks at Legion M Official, or they can go to our website at legionm.com, and it's got all of our background on the story behind Legion M, what our movement is all about, and the types of projects that we're investing in and producing, and including, one thing, one of the ways that we really got to know Stan very well is we have a Icons virtual reality interview series.
Yeah.
And Stan Lee was our pilot episode, and we still have that footage in the can. The idea is to capture an intimate interview with icons like Stan Lee. We did it in Stan Lee's home with Kevin Smith interviewing him, and those two were really close. So it was a very intimate conversation. We had Stan's wife was there, and she joined the conversation for part of it. There were some really heartfelt moments during the interview where, everyone on set got choked up, including Kevin Smith. The love that Stan and Joni had was like truly remarkable. And we captured it at the threshold with enough resolution that it actually meets the threshold of what the human eye can perceive. So we used two red weapon cameras, 8K cameras. So we have captured this interview to be the interview with Stan that'll last the test of time.
Paul, I look forward to seeing that, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today and sharing your memories of working with Stanley over the last couple of years. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and give my best to Jeff as well. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you for having us.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously Stan Lee affected so many people in so many different ways. I know, certainly my personal experience of Stan, I remember I interviewed him for the first time at Islands of Adventure in Orlando when they were opening that theme park. That was a long time ago. Long time ago. And he and I actually, we spent a good sort of 15 to 25 minutes, and we sat, I don't know if you know the theme park particularly well, but there's a vehicle from Fantastic Four on the Marvel Super Island. And we sat there and we were just chatting, and bearing in mind this is Stanley and you're in the middle of like what is effectively a comic mecca for fans.
Right.
He just sat there, and everybody who walked past could not believe that Stanley was sitting there talking to this dude. It was for a radio interview. I need to find it somewhere actually, and I'll post it online. And yeah, so he just sat there like a normal guy. Just, you know, every night, hey, how you doing, Stanley? You know, and it's, you know, hey, Spider-Man, doing the Spider-Man hands. And it was just incredible. And then over the last couple of years, since I've certainly lived in LA, premieres, whenever there's a Marvel premiere, he would always be there. And it just, you know, just to be able to talk to him, just for a couple of questions, he was very, very old. And just to tell him that, you know, you loved him and you appreciated his work. And genuinely, you know, a lot of people who are in the industry, when you go up to them and go, oh, you know, big fan of your work, they're like, oh, yeah, thanks. Stan really cared.
Yeah.
He genuinely still appreciated every single person, whether you were knee-high to a grasshopper or the size of the Hulk, you know, whether you were 5 or 95. He cared.
Yeah.
And there aren't many people like Stanley left in the industry. And I think he leaves an empty hole. You guys, your memories of Stanley?
Well, actually, I feel the poorer for it. I never got a chance to ever meet him in any sort of iteration. I guess I didn't really cover that many Marvel movies per se, but you know, of course, I would see everybody's photos and I would read everybody's comments, and you know, he was just what Kevin Feige said right after he died was that I just thought he was just going to live forever.
Yeah.
You know, it just seemed like he was just always there, you know. And I did hear he did get to do his cameo for Avengers 4.
Yeah.
So,
And he appears in Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet as well.
Spoiler.
Yes,
So,
spoiler about that.
Whoops.
But yeah, I you know, he's just what he left was. It's like it's even hard to wrap your brain around all of the, you know, amazing things that he did and created and what it all turned into, you know.
Demetri.
Yeah, I mean, for me, growing up reading comics, and admittedly, I was more of a DC person, right? But you couldn't get away from the fact of like reading Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Incredible Hulk, and I had a lot of friends who were
Incredible
Marvel
Hulk
fans.
was his brother.
Yes. And so, and then just growing up, like what Stan Lee and his passing right now, it truly is an end of an era, right? Of creativity, creating these superheroes that have lived on forever, for years and years and ages to come. And Stan Lee was able to do something. He was a personality, he was a creator, right? But he became celebrity as well. And I don't know anybody within that comic book world who was a creator, an artist, like who became Stan Lee. And this is all through the 70s and things. He would have cameos and things on like the Incredible Hulk, which was on TV, and things on the television show. And
the truly awful Spider-Man TV show of the 80s.
Yes.
Truly, if you can find that, I know it used to be available on VHS. If you can find it anywhere. Oh my God, I used to love that as a kid.
awesome.
But dear God, it's awful.
It was awesome. But he became a celebrity. And, you know, you're talking about premieres, but this guy also showed up to almost every convention that was afforded to him to go to. So when you talk about his reach out to the fans, and you're right, he was always appreciative. He always loved it. And it wasn't, some movie stars play the part when they're taking photos.
Sure.
For him, he was the part.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
That was
You
him.
know, that was him. He was that kid. He loved it. I mean, he set up, he had his television show on Sci-Fi Network.
Yeah.
He also set up Kamikaze, which was, you know, he set up his own convention,
Right.
which is now become LA Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Nobody has done within that comic book world what he's accomplished. And he was coming up at a time when there was like Superman, Batman, things like these, and those people were great.
And representation of characters as well. I mean, the amount of people I know, certainly in the last year, obviously the massive success of Black Panther, the amount of people who are not necessarily super comic book fans or super into the world of Marvel. It was a galaxy and a universe in which, a galaxy is kind of even bigger, where there was something in so many characters that relates to you, and he was very much about inclusion. He was very much about peace and respect and diversity. And I think, to be honest with you, it's very sad that he's died at a time when that message has, in many areas, unfortunately been lost. So, we can talk a lot about, how we should follow certain rules and certain principles. But I think, if you wanted to start a church that I'd support the Church of Stanley.
Yeah.
Because he was a very wise man with important messages. He wasn't preachy, and they were there front and center. A lot of people in the chat sharing their memories of Stanley this morning, and we will move on from this in just a moment. But Sky Patterson is talking about William Goldman, who we're going to get to in just a second, but also saying rest in peace to the extremely creative, talented, and intelligent Mr. Stan the Man Lee. Thank you for your incredible contribution to Marvel Comics and the comic book community. Sky saying, wish more talented celebrities when they pass are as loved and as honored as Stan Lee was, especially female celebrities. Eric Z saying, you guys are so right, Simon. Stan Lee really was a larger than life person as a creator. I would have put him up there with Walt Disney. I think that's entirely right. This is from Ramina Jones. Fans should check out Kevin Smith's tribute to Stan Lee on his channel. It's 2 hours and a beautiful tribute as Kevin Smith tells stories about his time with a beautiful tribute to Stan Lee, tells stories about Stan Lee. Sky Patterson, unfortunately, Stan Lee will not be featured in X-Men, Dark Phoenix, X-Men, The New Mutants, X-Force, and Gambit, the final Fox Marvel Cinematic Universe of films, but thank you for the contribution to the X-Men. Xeno Hour final on this, Stan Lee's creation changed my life for the better. The impact his creativity has had on the world can't be matched. And I think also for a lot of people who are outside the social circle, I remember as a kid watching a lot of his characters come to life on the small screen, or either it was animated or then on the big screen. Really, they represented me, and they continue to represent me. And that means a lot.
Yeah. So one other thing, too, before we get off with Stan Lee, is that he's definitely a person that they could make some semblance of a movie about. And the sad thing is, too, is that towards the end of his years, after his wife, I mean, he went through some, he was taken advantage of by people, by caretakers and things. I mean, this is a tremendous story. It sort of reminds me of the Michael Chambon book, like The Adventures of Something in Clay. There were comic book writers in that era, But if you think about it, and I think it would be amazing, is to have a story about Stan Lee coming up in that time period.
I think that's inevitable. I think somebody will definitely be looking at that, and there are certainly a community of people who would do that justice. And I think we're very lucky to be in that position. So let's see what happens with that in the future. Also, let's talk very briefly about William Goldman, the Oscar-winning writer of some incredible movies, who unfortunately has died at the age of 87. Obviously, Princess Bride is one a lot of people are talking about today. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
My favorite, one of my favorites.
Maverick. I mean, the Mel Gibson movie from the mid-90s, which I, at the time, watched so many times over and over again. I mean, another terrible loss. Amazing screenwriter. He did the same movie twice. He did Heat for Burt Reynolds, and then he redid it, I think it was Wild Card, with Jason Statham, who I have a very close bond with. I mean, it's a terrible news again this morning. But, I mean, what a legacy of his work. Did you look through that today and kind of forget what he'd done?
No, it's not just a legacy of his work. Again, another era gone by. He had written books. There were books written about him and his screenplay. There were people who followed the plot points of his writing of screenplays. And look, like all screenwriters, like anybody in the creative community, he had some hits and misses. Not all of them were great, but his great ones were great ones.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't take away from that. Whenever you saw his name in the credits, you went in going, this is going to be something
he is
special.
Like the quintessential, screenwriter. I mean, because, screenwriters, nowadays are a dime a dozen. You don't know people's names necessarily.
No.
I mean, there's maybe 5 or 6 you can think of
Right.
off the top of your head, right? But William Goldman, you hear his name, and it's like Stanley. You're like, oh God, William.
But it's a
Goldman.
name that's always been on the screen for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
You know, and people, you know, you wouldn't maybe be able to pick him out of a lineup if you saw him. If you saw him in, like, I don't know, a supermarket, you
Yeah.
wouldn't go, "Oh my God, that's
you don't know.
Goldman." You wouldn't do that,
right.
but you'd know all the movies. I mean, Glamoury is saying in the chat. Good morning, Glamoury. Misery was Goldman's greatest adaptation. Misery, I watched that just a couple of months ago. Wow. I haven't watched that since it was in theaters. Dear God, we talk about movies holding up. That movie is absolutely tremendous. I don't think James Caan and I don't think Kathy Bates, both amazing actors with tremendous ouvres, have been better than in that movie.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this. You know, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and when they made that, when I read that they were making that movie, I'm thinking, oh, God, how are they going to do this?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would
And
say
it was the time when I-
movie, he's in his head.
Oh,
you
no,
know, I mean, it's him sitting there going, you know, it's all this stuff.
Yeah.
How are they going to portray this? Oh my gosh, did they do?
And
a
it was
good
in the
job.
middle of a kind of a swamp of really shitty Stephen King adaptation.
And don't forget who
Yes.
directed
Really
it.
bad.
Yeah,
Don't
and
forget
Rob-
who directed
Yeah,
that
Rob
too.
Reiner, yeah.
That was during Rob Reiner's reign as Mr. $100 Million Man director. I mean, he was putting out the hits, including
Yeah.
Princess Bride.
Yeah.
You know, everybody in Misery was at top form.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Even the snow.
Even the even the
And you know, I mean, you don't usually win Oscars for playing bad guys, but Kathy
No.
Bates just, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, that
was
was
amazing.
tremendous. People are talking about this. Xeno Hour, Princess Bride is still one of the best movies ever. Yeah,
people
hands
a
down,
lot, yeah.
hands down. I mean, this is something that really makes my piss curdle with fury, is when
What's that,
somebody
Mr. Man?
has never seen The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
And I still, to this day, I buy a copy for them on Amazon and I send it to them so they can watch it because everybody should see The Princess Bride. I remember going to see that in a movie theatre in the UK. I lived in a city called Swansea, which is my hometown at the time. And the local movie theatre played The Princess Bride and it was literally empty. Like, literally, I was one of the few people in there. It was a big movie theatre. No. And I absorbed that movie. And I was telling everybody about it, and nobody would go and see it. And then gradually over the years, when it came out on Vestron Video at the VHS store, then everybody kind of picked up on it. And it just snowballed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly one of the greatest movies of all
It
time.
really is. And
yeah.
I remember I went to a screening, a radio promotion screening for the radio station that I worked at, really not knowing anything about The Princess Bride. And then at the end of the movie, you just go, again, it was a feel-good movie at the time. And
so
the word
quotable.
of mouth. And what was really amazing about it, I don't think the situation would work today, but back then when it came out, movies were given a little bit more time to breathe and let that word of mouth like
It was a different
sweep. It was
time.
a wave.
Yeah.
But
It was a different time.
It was, but that's how it stayed on top. And it became so popular. And then, with the advent of video and everything. But I just remember seeing that movie, not knowing anything going in and coming out and, being
Loving it.
Princess Buttercup.
But I have to say, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid's probably my favorite Goldman script.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Princess Bride too, but
Tremendous.
Butch
I mean,
Cassidy just.
Papillon, another one.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know, God, did he write All the President's Men as well? I think he wrote that.
No, I don't
Did
think.
he not write that?
Don't we have IMDb?
Yeah, well, check it.
that,
I mean,
check
but
that,
seriously,
because that's
it's
my other-
amazing.
Yeah. No, it is
But
amazing.
Eric Z saying in the chat, Simon, as a kid, I knew the song by BJ Thomas, "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head," before I
Yeah.
saw Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids, my mother's favorite film. It's a tremendous movie. And again, I was exactly the same. I used to hear that on the radio all the time, and I didn't realize it was in the movie. And I saw the movie, I was like, fuck! Look at that! Fishman Dildo saying Princess Bride just got put out on Criterion Collection. It did.
Yeah.
That is something worth investing in. Jack Dennis, or Miles Teller, as we know,
Hey, Miles.
is in the chat. Sorry, Simon, never seen Princess Bride.
Wait,
Plan on.
who?
Okay, well,
Plenty, though.
Simon, get his address.
Plenty though before watching before Once Upon a Deadpool. Jack, genuinely, email me your address. I'll send you a copy of this movie. I will pay for it myself, and I will send that to you. You need to see this movie. Is it on streaming?
Sure.
Can you see it for free? Is it on streaming? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
all I
I'll send you.
know
I'll
is
send
on
you a copy. I'll
cable.
buy it and I'll send you a copy.
It's on the HBOs of the
It's
world.
not on
yeah.
Netflix, though. is it?
Zeno Hour is asking, would an updated adaptation of Misery be a mistake? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So a tragic loss again, William Goldman. So that's I'm just going to draw a line under the tribute part of the show. We lost two tremendous talents this week. Thank you for allowing us to talk about that on the show. I think they warrant the time that we've given over to them today. And both the sad losses, Stanley and William Goldman. Thank you. But we still have their work, which is amazing. AFI Hollywood this week. It was a big festival taking place here in LA. Obviously, if you have been watching the news at all this week, you will know about the terrible wildfires that have been decimating Northern California and here in Southern California, especially around Malibu. I have a couple of friends who unfortunately lost their houses this week. They've lost everything, but they're being surprisingly upbeat. And I think two people deserve a special mention this week. Scott Derrickson, the director of Doctor Strange, he was one of the people who also lost his home this week. If you want to see someone whose resilience and focus is beyond admirable, you need to check out Scott's Twitter feed this week. Seriously, his take on this has been remarkable. And also, and don't anybody keel over with shock from this, James Woods, the actor, who I am politically on entirely the opposite end of the spectrum.
And as a woman, sorry.
And as I'm not a woman, but as you're a woman, I have to say this week, he really impressed me by the fact that he, on Twitter, used it for good. And he linked people who were in need with people who could provide services to help them. Even with Alicia Milano, who he has clashed with publicly. He approached it in a completely neutral way and was very helpful. And I think James, aside from anything else, I think he does deserve respect and recognition for that. So James, thank you for that. That impressed and inspired me this week. But the AFI Hollywood, a lot of premieres got... In fact, all the premieres this week got cancelled. Starting last weekend with Instant Family, and a lot of them at the AFI. Anything that was basically past the opening night. And again, right through. And tonight, The Favourite, the premiere for that has been cancelled as well. A terrible shame this week. But what do you feel about the way that Hollywood and obviously the AFI has kind of reacted to this in response to the tragedies? I think they did the right thing. I think this year.
Yeah, I mean it's because a lot of Hollywood people have been affected by the fires as well, and you were like Gerard Butler. I mean, they're all tweeting about it and whatnot. It makes sense to not sort of go there, because it's just the feeling right now is just it's very it's somber, and again, some people too that we lost this week. It's kind of a somber week, and so why it's just I think it's a good move.
No, it is a very good move, but I think too we should also remember there were non-celebrity people who lost everything too.
Very much so.
So I mean, I get where we live. I understand. I think AFI and all those folks, I think they did do right by the industry out of respect. I think it was a really good call. But we should also not forget about the regular people who are not celebrity. Yes. They lost everything as well. They may not have the means to get these connections. So it's a tragic loss. These fires throughout, and how it happened or whether, people are like, well, how can they be so bad? I go, number one, it's extremely dry, and the wind, and I saw them last week leaving the studios here, driving down Burbank Boulevard. You could see the Thousand Oaks.
I saw them driving in.
Yeah, so it's that I, from where I live, near USC, and you could smell
I know.
The fire. So it's just tragic in how fast.
Yeah.
Well, it took over.
I work for a company that puts on fan conventions.
Yes.
And we had our fan convention for Once Upon a Time in Burbank over the past weekend. And on Sunday, 3 firemen walked into the convention center just to kind of check out what was going on. And you know, I you know, immediately you kind of look at them and go, oh my gosh, what I'm standing here doing compared to, you know, they had a night, they had a break. They were on for 4 days and they had a break, and the Marriott where we were was the closest hotel for them to rest in, and so they had some hot showers, but they looked tired.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's like, I said, what do you say to them? I go, thank you so much for all that you're doing. They're like, you know, it's their job, it's what they do, but still, it's just kind of it was just very like, oh my God, I'm standing here promoting.
And this story is like well after the fires are contained and put out. I mean, I just heard on the news this morning that they were using DNA to try to find people that are missing. I mean, there's many dead and there's hundreds missing, just missing. So, you know, this story is going to affect California, the country, and all over. I think well after you know, the last fire has been put out, and they're going to be searching for people, and that's the tragedy.
And it is a real tragedy, and obviously, you know, there are a lot of people, I think, logistically, when we're talking about things like AFI and events that are going on, it's the right decision. I think not necessarily because you're not seen to be celebrating, you know, where 25 minutes down the road or 25 miles down the road, you know, people are they're digging through the remains of their houses, and then you've got Hollywood going, let's pretend that this doesn't happen, and hey, look at my film. So I think out of respect, that's the right thing to do. But also I think on a logistics point of view, these premieres, whether even if it's a small one, they take a lot of manpower in the city of Los Angeles, police, fire, so many different things, medical teams. And I think in a time where really the welfare of Americans and human beings and also animals are really important, I think to take away any resource from that would be inappropriate. And I genuinely think it was the right decision. I'm very sorry that the AFI has probably received probably a little less coverage than they would have liked this year. But I think they did exactly. It'll come back to them tenfold. And I have a lot of respect. And also to all the talent who still turned up to these events and they introduced the films, and especially to the guys behind Instant Family, who this week, they, rather than having their premiere, they continued with the screening because a lot of kids were invited from sort of shelters and youth groups, so they continued to show that. But also they screened the film at one of the shelters where families were being taken to receive care and to receive food and clothes and stuff like that, and they showed the film for them there, and I think that's really nice.
That's
super.
So I know a lot of people do look at Hollywood and go, well, fuck us, we're all stuck up our own asses. But do you know what? It's a great community who have done a huge amount to help people in the last couple of weeks. Lady Gaga's been out. Dave Grohl did a barbecue. You know, when push comes to shove, the community does give back. And it doesn't matter whether you're a member of the community or not, they will still help you. And I think we have to recognize that.
And I
It's
want
just
to
the
bring
right
up
thing to
something
do.
else too. It's all politics aside.
It is all politics aside.
You know, I mean, this is what community can do together when you're not fighting about politics.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a very important thing in today's day and age where things are divisive, but they don't have to be.
They don't have to be. And I think this brings us back to, to a very important place that we are, especially in the week running up to Thanksgiving. Let's talk about some other movie news, and then we'll get to the week's big releases, and a couple of big trailers dropped this week as well. Let's talk about Ben Wheatley, dreaming of Manderley. He is going to adapt Rebecca for Netflix with Armie Hammer and Lily James. Now, I love Rebecca. I'm a big fan of Hitchcock. Big fan of Hitchcock. It's an amazing movie that I've watched a tremendous amount of times.
And it still holds up.
And it still holds up. I saw it at the New Beverly about a year ago.
Really doesn't. But name one of his movies that
No,
doesn't.
I can't.
Really,
But I mean, what do you think about? I'm kind of. You know, we still have the original. I don't mind. I would like to see Ben's take on this, because whether or not you like Ben's movies, and I'm kind of, some of them I really like, and some of them I think are terrible. I would be very interested to see his take on this.
Yeah, and I'm actually encouraged by the casting as well. I think it's a good cast. I think Armie Hammer can handle that sort of, broody He won't be Laurence Olivier, but he'll be broody enough. And Lily James has that sort of fragile, kind of sensibility. So I'm encouraged. I guess it's okay.
For me, it's look. If number one, if they were going to do this theatrically, you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
And then a lot of people would be going, what? Like, what's Rebecca? So I think
Crimson
Netflix.
Peak, I mean,
I think
just a little
I think
Rebecca-like.
I think that this is where a remake of this movie, you can get away with it doing it on Netflix.
Yeah.
Because people aren't going to be as critical.
Maybe
Yeah.
not.
Because it's again, this isn't an advertisement for Netflix. I'm not saying, or I'm not saying anything good or bad about Netflix. I'm just saying I think it's an outlet. If you're going to do a remake of what many people consider to be a Hitchcock classic,
Yeah.
you know, necessarily, and if it's on the big screen theatrically, a lot of people are asking, why are you doing Hitchcock? But when it's on Netflix, to an extent, it sort of flies under the radar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can get away with doing it there. And
I'd like to see him. I'd like to see a unique POV. I'd like to see him do
Sure.
completely. I wouldn't like him to do it from the same point that Hitchcock came from, because otherwise you can't match what Hitchcock did. You really can't match
Talk
that.
to Gus Van Sant.
Yeah.
I mean, let me ask you.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, a lot of people really had a bad time with his Psycho. I didn't think it was the the turd that a lot of people made it out to be. I don't think it's not as good as the original, because you got the original, but it's basically the original done a different way. But I don't hate it as much as some people.
I mean, what do you think about as a upcoming or a director nowadays taking something as classic as a Hitchcock and trying to redo it? I mean, what sort of mindset do you think you have to be in? Either he's going to go completely the opposite, What would you do? I would never do it.
No, I just
How would be a
again,
director wanting to take something like
again, I think doing it on Netflix is fine. I think if you're going theatrically, right? If you were going to redo Strangers on the Train theatrically, but it's a lose-lose situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we
can't
know
not
the story.
compare.
Well, actually, forgive me, I'm sort of kind of wrong on that. They did do a remake of Strangers on the Train, and it was called Throw Mama from the Train.
Which
And
I just
that
watched and laughed all over again.
But it's hysterical. That's a different take.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a remake, but it's Strangers on
Yeah.
the Train, crisscross. So when you're doing it on Netflix or even on Amazon Prime, that's a way to showcase maybe a talent, and maybe people will see that, and people who may not have seen Rebecca, if they're streaming, they may see it and they go, "Oh, I want to see the original."
The original.
Let's move on from this. A couple of other things I want to get to before we talk about the big releases of the movie. Time for movie sports cause. Lethal Weapon 5. Ghostbusters 3. Lethal Weapon 5 appears to be on again. Richard Donner saying this week that a new writer has been hired. Please don't.
Just stop.
Please don't.
Just stop.
I love the first two. I like the third movie. 4. No. No. I mean, no.
Just no. And they
No.
have a television series too. I mean, come
Well, the television series
Which is
to me
better than I think it would be.
But
Yeah.
I'm the only one on the panel who's I'm not against it.
You know what I say?
I'm not.
Fuck you with the drive-through. Say fuck you with the drive-through. Always go to the
that-
counter.
Wait,
No, I don't know.
I got nothing against it.
I just, but
so
you wouldn't. But
Mel and Danny on board.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say. I mean, and they were too old for that shit in the 80s. So.
So it's gonna be their kids.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
I don't know.
I'm not throwing
Look,
tantrum, but it's like.
it would be great to see Donner back.
Yeah.
I forget the last thing he directed, and I got nothing against
that's true. But I mean, I'd like to see him do something different. But yeah, Lethal Weapon 5. Okay. I watched that the same day I watched Lethal Weapon 4. But yeah,
See, I like
Ghostbusters.
4 better than 3.
Well, you're wrong. I'm kidding. Ghostbusters 3. I'm kidding. You're not wrong. Difference of opinion.
Actually, I didn't really like any of them after the first one, so I'm just gonna.
It always amazes me when people interview Patsy Kensit. Still to this day, they're like, "Would you come back to the Lethal Weapon franchise?" It's like she did.
I'm dead.
She did. She did.
Any man of an age remembers how Patsy Kensit died.
South Africans were the bad guys.
Bitch. Ghostbusters 3, Dan Aykroyd
You're
seems...
back.
Bitch, you blick. I still love that. It's bit. What? Great scene. Dan Aykroyd seems to think there's still a chance for Ghostbusters 3. In other news, Dan Aykroyd's the only one who seems to think there's still a chance of Ghostbusters 3.
True, but
Bill Murray would never do it in a million years.
No.
No way.
never.
No,
It's
no,
not gonna
no.
happen.
No way.
5 or 10 years ago, I mean, I remember when I was doing a TV show in the UK called Inside Hollywood, and I remember where there was a Sony showcase, and there was like a 4-quadrant image of brands they were going to be doing again, and one of them was Ghostbusters. This was like 2011. We're now at least seven years, maybe 2010, 7 or 8. And I'm like, no, we had the Ghostbusters with Paul Feig, which didn't go down particularly well and wasn't a massive success for various
liked
reasons.
it. I'm just going to put it out
It's
there.
not the worst thing I've seen.
I didn't love it at all.
Well, we can go over that again. But
You're wrong.
yeah, but
My turn.
being wrong. But no, I don't think we need. I don't want to go. I love Ghostbusters. I love Ghostbusters too. I don't think audiences want to see.
Vigo.
Yeah.
Look, if Ivan Reitman said it, then I'd be like, oh, they really are going to do this. I think no. I'm
I
not
don't
on
think
board with it. You're not going to get Bill Murray. You're definitely not going to get Harold Ramis.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And we don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what you're going to do. Call Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Sure.
Blumhouse TV, talking of ghosts,
set you up.
going to be producing, welcome to Blumhouse Corner, going to be producing 8 feature-length thrillers for Amazon. So Amazon's going to stream 8 exclusive Blumhouse features from diverse directors, which I think is really
Very
good
exciting.
and really interesting. I mean, great.
idea.
You know, I know the guys at Blumhouse have just released some stuff on Hulu this week, which I'm going to check out if I have some time on Thanksgiving. But yeah, I mean, Blumhouse going amazingly now in the TV sector. I think we're going to see more and more from them, which is great. Your thoughts on seeing this week? Were you surprised? Are they spreading themselves a little bit too thin?
Who, Blumhouse?
Yeah.
No. I mean,
Gotta be devil's advocate, but-
look, if they get the people involved and they get like they said, all the different directors, then I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to do something.
And let's face it too. I think this is an overpour from The Haunting of Hill House.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I mean, which did really well for Netflix. I mean,
we-
but that's,
you
here's
watch
the
it?
thing, though. I did. And,
so good.
But here's the thing, though. I said it did really well on Netflix, but we'll never know how really well anything
Yeah.
does on
Yeah.
Netflix and on Amazon.
It's like having a girlfriend in Canada.
Right.
Maybe she exists.
Yeah,
maybe she
maybe
doesn't.
she doesn't.
Why do you have a picture that's laminated in your wallet? That's just creepy.
Came with a wallet.
Of course it
So, you said. So horror now too is really on this super highway.
Yeah.
And I think by doing
Yeah.
something on Amazon where you're doing 8 individual movies, you're bringing in new talent, you're farming new talent
Yeah.
that could potentially do features for Blumhouse. I think it's a great idea.
And I think Amazon are really sort of upping their game when it comes to
Oh.
creating some original content. I was watching Homecoming this
Yeah, I
week,
heard
which
it's
is
really
great.
good.
It's really good. Beautiful. I mean, I don't know if I entirely love the show, but the way that it's done, I mean, Sam has done some amazing stuff with that.
Bosch is great.
Bosch is great,
There's-
just renewed for a
Yep.
6th season
6th
before
season.
5 starts on Amazon.
Yeah.
So I think they're really taking it a bit more seriously, and they're really
going for the
creating
Netflix,
content.
You know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they're doing that. I think Netflix is spreading themselves, so then I'll just say that out loud.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's something for another week.
Yes,
we can
another
discuss
week.
about that. A couple of things in the chat. Alex Panos saying a very good tribute to first responders. Thank you, Alex. It's entirely our pleasure.
my dad.
That is your dad. I wasn't going to say that, but you
Dad.
kind
I
of.
can say that. Hey, Dad.
Spoiler! Okay. Sky Patterson, Lethal Weapon 5. No, thank you. Zeno Hour saying Lethal Weapon and Bad Boys crossover. Make it happen, Hollywood.
Sure.
At Simon Thompson says Lethal Weapon and Bad Boys crossover. Don't make it happen, Hollywood. Sky Patterson, Ghostbusters 3. No. How about the original Ghostbusters training new Ghostbusters? Or come up with something completely inventive and original and intelligent. It's not that hard. It's okay to let go. Let it go. Let the blood flow through the fingers. Okay, we're going to get to the week's big releases, and obviously we're going to look ahead to next week as well, because we don't have a show day after Thanksgiving. Let's talk about trailers first of all. Detective Pikachu. I thought that was going to just be so terrible.
Horrible, right?
Yeah.
And I watched it and I went, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, God damn it, I'm now looking forward to Detective Pikachu.
God, I'm the contrarian
I text
today.
my son.
How did that happen?
I text my son, who's 25, and of course, Pokemon was
Yeah.
like his jam.
Right.
And I went, "This is your shit." And I sent him the trailer, and he goes, "Oh yeah, Mom, thanks."
Did you get the punctuation right, or did you go, "This is your shit"? Mom!
What do you
I was
mean?
being
You
Okay,
saved
cool.
it?
I was being
yeah,
like,
I bronzed
You
it.
were being street.
I was being hip hop.
Yeah, after you did the floss.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Did the
yeah.
floss.
And I dabbed.
Do they dab? I don't know if they dab.
I'm still raising
But
the
yeah, so
roof.
Detective Pikachu. Where did that come from? It genuinely looks like a really good fun.
I know.
I thought it was like the worst idea.
And like the fact that only this kid can hear Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu and everybody else hears Pikachu, Pika Pika. I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah.
that's kind of brilliant.
You not a fan?
I saw it online. I was like, okay. And then I saw it on the big screen last night because it was in front of Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yeah.
And it didn't. I liked it less.
Oh, interesting.
I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
It's fine. We'll see.
see.
I'm just keeping a cautiously pessimistic, optimistic attitude.
Well, I'm very happy to eat my hat and say actually that's one of the movies I'm genuinely most looking forward to next year. I'm very surprised by that. Also, just before that, can we just say for Toy Story 4?
Oh,
Poorly
my
timed
God.
release of a trailer. You had like 2 hours and then it was like, you done! It was like, what? You got absolutely decimated by Pika Pika!
I don't know
Toy
about
Story 4, the teaser dropped beginning of this week. Everybody lost their shit.
They
Yeah.
did 2 things.
Yeah.
They did
this
too.
week.
Yeah.
But
The first
Ducky
one
and Bunny
we're going to
one,
focus
Oh
on,
my
yeah.
God,
It's Key and Peele
Key
doing
and
their
Peele.
carve-out,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
it was hysterical.
Yeah.
It was great, and then the teaser trailer
Yeah.
itself was like,
Yeah, it's cute, but
It's
no,
cute.
that was that Key and Peele thing
Key
that
and
sold
Peele
me.
thing
Yeah.
I was like,
Hysterical.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Down.
How did you feel when you saw Toy Story 4? Again, it was something I was very nervous about because Toy Story 3 for me was the perfect way to round that
Oh
out.
I
my
know.
God.
And when you kind of open that box again, it's like, I don't know if the magic's going to be there.
I'm with you.
I know,
mean,
but you know what? They've done it so far. Each one, you know, you're getting a little more nervous and more nervous, but they seem to still pull it out. So I'm,
They do.
I'm
Yeah.
encouraged.
everybody, I'm very encouraged by it. It's Pixar. This is their baby. I believe that they're going to take great TLC. They're
Yeah.
going to give
Yeah.
it tender loving care and make sure that the audiences who followed these people, they're going to feel
Yeah.
the warmth and tender loving care as well.
Sky Patterson in the chat saying Toy Story 4, cute, thanks Disney Pixar. Zeno was saying, I want a Ducky and Bunny spin-off now. Yes.
It could happen.
It could happen. Disney Plus streaming service. Disney Plus streaming
There we
service.
go.
Also this week, another one for Disney. Nice work again with this one, Dumbo.
Why?
This
Why are
trailer.
Why are they doing this
Are
to
you
me?
not a fan?
No, I'm just. It,
it-
made me cry
it-
all
it's-
over
Oh, right, okay.
again.
Telling you.
I can't stand it.
And that's
that
a
movie.
trailer.
I know.
I mean, the trip.
I was
Again,
losing it.
cutting that, it's a great trailer.
it's a good
It
trailer.
really is. And I tweeted, "You will believe an elephant can fly." I mean, it was just wonderful. I can't wait.
And I like Tim Burton.
Me
You know, I mean,
too.
he has
Yeah.
also had some hits and misses, but I think he'll do something.
What did
yeah,
you
with
think?
this.
yeah.
Like, what did you think? Because you hadn't seen it. I had seen it just before you. You hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
You just recently watched it.
I was just silent, and that's rare. I'll be honest with you. I just don't shut up. But that's true. I really don't shut up.
I don't believe
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, to me, it's amazingly magical. I mean, so many of these Disney, the live action movies, some of them I've just really felt. I've
Yeah.
really, Maleficent, I loved Pete's Dragon. I thought that was great. Wasn't really massively into Cinderella. Dumbo, I mean,
Jungle Book was
shit,
great.
Yeah, Jungle Book
Jungle
was
Book,
great. That was really impressive. But Dumbo's something else. I mean, it just looks so magical.
And the cast.
Yeah.
Let's please hope they just never do Bambi. Okay, can I just
Yeah.
put that out there? Don't ever do Bambi.
I hope they change the ending.
But
But no, I mean,
wanna see
I
a
just
real deer just get
yeah,
shot.
I no, I
got
don't
the
think
yearling
they'd
for
shoot a
that.
real deer. Jeez, this is not a snuff movie.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
But yeah, no, I Dumbo. It gave me, as the kids say, all the feels.
All the feels.
It was.
It's crazy. Like, and when you look
Classic
at the cast,
Burton.
classic Burton.
Up there with like Edward Scissorhands and all the really emotional stuff.
And
that
it's gonna
touches
be,
you.
it's gonna hit the highs, the lows.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
he's
gonna
got
be.
the whole circus thing to be like
oh my
freaky
God.
with, and it's gonna be.
I love the expressions on certain people's. Faces when. Michael Keaton looks great.
Yeah.
So does Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell gets to play a good
He
guy.
looks
Yeah.
great. Danny DeVito is.
It's a good
and
cast.
even the kids. When you get sucked into a trailer that's just a little over 2 minutes long, and it's not even showing you everything,
Right.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Hey, Hollywood, there's a lesson for you.
Yeah.
Stick that in your pipe and smoke it. 2 minutes, don't show us everything. There you go. Okay, let's talk about the movies this week, because obviously we don't have a show next week, so we're going to cover this week's releases and touch on some that are coming out next week. First of all, it's a great week. Scott is not here, unfortunately. Scott is at the launch of the Spirit
Spirit
Awards
Awards nominations.
in nominations today, so he couldn't make the show, unfortunately. But you and Scott and I all feature in the trailer for Instant Family, which is amazing.
Amazing.
I'm also featuring in the trailers for and on the posters for Grindelwald,
Yeah.
which we'll get to that in a second, which is
Yeah.
great. So it's a thank you. It's
amazing.
it's a major win for
It's
this show, which is great.
I was so happy and proud. Like, meet the movie press.
Yeah.
It legitimizes. I mean, I don't know of any other show, podcast or otherwise, other than Siskel and Ebert, but they were Siskel and Ebert, right?
Yeah.
And there were only 2 people.
Yeah.
3. All 3 of us are quoted in ads for movies that we honestly believe in.
Yeah.
They, we're not paid for it. We love it. And I was so proud. It was the first time for me ever. So I felt like Nathan Johnson in The Jerk when he sees his name in the phone book. I'm somebody. And then 2 seconds later, a sniper goes, "Who's this asshole?" And then he goes to kill
He
him.
hates these kids.
He hates these kids. But for our show, and I think for Popcorn Talk Network, I just think I was so happy.
Yeah.
I was just giddy about that all week.
And we really
Awesome.
appreciate it. And
Congrats.
also, I was saying, obviously, I was on Bohemian Rhapsody just
Yeah.
the other week, and I have been okay to be on the home entertainment release packaging, which is great. But like you say, having your name associated with a product is great, but we only associate our name with films that we actually genuinely really like.
Right.
And it's a great endorsement of this show by the fact that they will listen to us and they will put our names on those posters. And we
again,
really appreciate it.
For
So thank you.
me, I gotta, I thank the Popcorn Talk. I thank you, Simon and Scott, you being a good friend and co-host, and Anatomy of a Movie. None of this for me would have ever happened without this. And we're not here tooting our own horns, but there is something special about it when a show that I believe in, we believe in, the audience who watches us, we have great loyalty. They have great comments. And for when we can make a showing and say, Hollywood is taking us serious.
Yeah.
I've always said they pay attention.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing.
So let's take Hollywood seriously for a minute, which we always
Again?
do on the show, obviously. Let's talk first of all about Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. We touched on this last week. I know a lot of critics, the reviews came out, and not a lot of love for this movie. I am not the world's biggest fan of Harry Potter. I am not the world's biggest fan of Wizarding World. I enjoyed Fantastic Beasts. For me, I enjoyed this more. It has a lightness and a levity to it that was, for me, lacking in the previous movie. Some people have said it's darker, which I find is quite weird. I get in places it's quite dark, but just felt, a lighter cake. And I think the character development is this. There's a lot of characters in this that I didn't care about previously. I really didn't connect with. I think the development of Ezra Miller's character is excellent in this. I really like, however you feel about Johnny Depp, I really like what Johnny's done with the character. And I really can take or leave Johnny Depp, and I'm very tired of some of his shtick. But I think he's done a great job here. And I think supporting cast are generally great. The new characters are great. I genuinely came out having really enjoyed the movie and looking forward to the next one, which is coming.
Yeah,
We
well,
know
I
this.
actually have to say I felt like the first one was a little more whimsical, and this one was a little more serious.
Okay, interesting.
I think that like Newt's character particularly deepens a little bit more in this because he's kind of all I'm quirky and and I'm absent-minded and I'm awkward. But in this one, you got to see some of the, some more of his relationships, especially with his brother. Anyway, and Queenie is another character I thought got a lot more depth to this time around. But Depp was great. I mean, I think he didn't overplay it, and he was kind of scared me, but also at the same time sort of drew me in. But of course, it was Jude Law as young Dumbledore. Bam! That's what they're saying.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I loved it.
Genuinely, it was a pleasant surprise.
And it's eye-popping, too. It's so amazing to watch.
Yeah,
so
the Davids have done a great job with it.
Yeah,
They've done a really good job.
And that's the thing, too. Like, I am a Harry Potter fan.
Me too.
And this reminds you why you're a fan of the movies and the books, but the movies, because it really, like, the imaginative and magical world. There is light, but it can get dark.
Yeah.
But mostly, it's the core themes to Harry Potter, and now this are family and friendships, and how they're built, and whoever turns on who, like. It kept me guessing. It weaved a really good story. Yeah. And then, like you said, there are parts like when you see Hogwarts and things. And I love the fact that it's in 1927.
Yeah.
And it's a prequel to me that does what most prequels fail at. And that is, it gives context.
Yes.
Much more context and depth as to what is to come.
100%.
And I love that.
And that's because Rowling is writing the script.
Yeah.
So, I mean, clearly she's...
Looking at a weekend box office of domestic of 65 to 75. Some people are pitching it around 68. I think 75 is doable, which puts it around the same as first Fantastic Beasts.
Had a good preview night.
Yeah, and worldwide looking at 250 million. Previews last night were of 9.1 million, which I think is pretty good, to be honest with you. They should be happy. Instant Family. Looking at previews, it took 550,000. It's looking at a weekend of about 18 million. Instant Family, one of the best comedies of the year, one of the best films of the year. I gave it an 8 out of 10 on IGN. A movie that genuinely surprised me and touched me in an incredible number of ways. It made me laugh. It made me cry. It's a story of a husband and a wife who look into adopting children and take on 3 young children. It's a story that I'm actually surprised how many people that I have in my life who have some sort of connection to this story, either having adopted themselves or being adopted, or having some members of the family who were rehomed and found new families. It's a great movie, and I'll be honest with you,
it's really, really good.
Seriously, I think it's being undersold a bit by Paramount, and I hope it's not swallowed up too much by Grindelwald this weekend, because it's a movie that really deserves to be seen.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
No, you go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay.
Well, for me, it's a movie that's needed today. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's a feel-good movie.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I cannot remember the last time I
But not
watched...
sappy.
But no. It juggles. It walks that tightrope. There's nothing in there... Yes, all movies are manipulative, but there are some where, like, you feel like an AD is holding up a sign telling you this is the scene to cry, or this is the scene to lie. That doesn't happen here. And you walk out... And you know that you've welled up at a scene before, but it's all respectfully earned from the characters on screen. Everything felt real as the movie Parenthood by Ron Howard.
It's a great likeness, actually. Parenthood's a really good comparison.
Parenthood right of now.
Yeah, I can't
but even
say
more
enough.
relevant, I think, because of just how it kind of brings together all kinds of elements of diversity and just everything.
And so I mean, you got to interview, I forget her name, but the oldest teenage girl.
Yeah, I've interviewed her a couple of times over the last. Yeah, Isabella Moner.
She's
tremendous.
Beautiful.
Every time she's on screen, she is completely. I think she's like 15 or 17 years old. She's not particularly old. Seriously, she is so watchable. She has such presence.
Yeah.
She really adds in the scenes that she's in. She consolidates the scene. It's not like she's a lot of these movies where you have younger members of the cast, they tend to be add-ons and they don't really. She adds a cohesion to every single scene with Mark and with Rose and the other kids and everything. She is such a talent.
She was the best thing in Sicario.
She is remarkable.
Yeah, she was the best thing in Sicario too.
She's going to be
Some would argue
huge.
she was the best thing.
She's
in
playing Dora the Explorer, though. I'm like,
No, I
okay,
think
good for her.
she's.
Go. I'm sure she'll do something.
Yeah, I think she's a find.
Yeah.
I truly do. But the other kids too. And again, when I say real, again, there's a fine line of being annoying. Kids can be annoying, but you understood where it came from. I think that well, obviously for the director, this is a personal story to him.
We're running out of time. No, it is. Sean, I think, has done an amazing job.
Yeah.
It's really, as I say in my IGN thing, it's really a coming of age of Sean as working with the comedies that he's done and working with Mark Wahlberg. They've both been working towards this. It's beautiful, Sean. Massive kudos to what you've done with this film.
Absolutely.
So if you see Grindelwald, then go see Instant Family.
yeah.
See him at the same day.
And Widows is also coming out this weekend. A lot of buzz around this movie. I finally got to see this week. I didn't love it as much as some other people. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great thriller. Amazing ensemble cast. Dan Kaluuya, again, doing a phenomenal role. I mean, Viola is just amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody in it really brings their A game. Previews of 600,000 last night, looking at a weekend of 17.2 million. It's great. It's a really good heist movie. It's
getting some Oscar talk.
It's getting some Oscar talk, and I'll be honest with you, about halfway through the movie, I got to the point where I was like, I don't know if I like this. This is getting a bit slow, and then it shifts, and I'm like, shit. This is on, and it's really, really good. It's seriously, it's worth your time and money this weekend. Box office looking like this, looking at a weekend of 17.2 million. It's looking at a Fantastic Beast going to come in on top. No sort of surprise there. Grinch #2, Bohemian Rhapsody #3, Instant Family and Widows. If you're looking to go and see a movie this weekend, while Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald is a great movie, genuinely, I would say go and see Instant Family, because that deserves your love this weekend.
Yeah. It does.
And it's a great movie. And it's a family movie, and I say fuck, which might come as a surprise. So it's not for really small kids, but it's a great movie to take the family to this Thanksgiving.
Can we be realistic, too? We are going into a holiday week.
Yeah.
So you're going to have, your kids are going to be off of school multiple days. You can see more than just one movie.
Yeah.
So make Instant Family.
Absolutely.
And
Make
see
it a
with the
family day.
See it as a date. I can't express enough. You will come out feeling good.
And there's actually, I did a piece for Forbes last night on the fact that Alamo Drafthouse, some of their theaters around the US, they're actually doing where you can have your Thanksgiving dinner for $20 served at your seat. So if you want to spend Thanksgiving with the family, you want them to shut up, you want to watch a movie, and you want them to put their damn phones down, go to Alamo Drafthouse, watch a movie there, shove food in their mouth, and everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. Okay, next week, let's very quickly touch on the fact that Creed 2 comes out next week, Robin Hood comes out next week, Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet comes out next week. We have to wrap the show up very soon, I'm aware of that. Guys, what have you seen out of those, and what do you think?
I have seen Wreck-It Ralph too, and I was definitely entertained completely. Of course, I haven't seen Creed 2 or Robin Hood. I'm supposed to see Robin Hood next week, so we'll see. But I don't know why they're making another Robin Hood, but that's just that.
Yeah, I too saw Wreck-It Ralph too. I didn't think it was as good as the original, although extremely clever, sharp wit. Throughout. I mean, genuinely inventive and original laughs that come out.
The last
third, it gets a little ponderous. And it doesn't quite, for me anyways, have the heart that the first one did. However, the world in which it builds, you're going to love it because it's hysterical.
Guys, thank you so much. We've run out of time. Very briefly, Demetri, where can we find you on social media, and what are you covering on Anatomy of a Movie this week?
At DMovies1701, and for me, I will be part of Girl in the Spider's Web, and I believe they're also doing Boy Erased, and then an extremely short, small version of The Grinch. Is what they'll be doing.
Fantastic. Kit, where can we find you on social media?
At the Movie Kit. I'll be seeing some movies next week too, so I'll be commenting on those.
I'm Simon Thompson. You can find me at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. A couple of comments before we finish the show today from Carson Bertrand. Very, very kind words from you. I've been watching the show for 3 years through Jeff and Riley and now Simon and crew. And the show has always kept me tuned in every Friday since then. Huge fan. Keep up the great work. We really appreciate that. As it's Thanksgiving week this week, we are thankful for you. Sky Patterson absolutely loves seeing the beautiful, intelligent, strong faces and minds of Kit and Demetrius on Meet the Movie Press. Bring them back at Popcorn Talk. They will be back. And Sky, great job on the show today, Simon. Always doing incredible things. It is Thanksgiving week, so thankful to you guys.
And
thankful to you guys, and also Veterans Day this week. So thank you to all who serve our country, past, present, or if you're thinking about doing it in the future, we really appreciate it. Guys, have a great Thanksgiving. We will not be here next week. We'll be back the week after. If you like the podcast, like, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube, obviously. You can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify and Podcast One, and many, many other networks. So if you like the show, do us a Thanksgiving gift and share the gift of Meet the Movie Press with the people that you love and that love movies.
It is free.
It's hey, my favorite price. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you so much. Take care.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of its owners or principals.